In today's series of Docplexus KOL interviews, we have with us Dr. Shantanu Rahman, who is a specialist in family medicine. He'll be talking to us about antibiotic overuse in India. Thank you, Dr. Shantanu, for joining us.
Thank you.
Dr. Shantanu, can you tell us about how rampant is antibiotic overuse in India and what has its impact been on the patients?
See, antibiotic was first discovered in 1940s. And since then, it's been a marvelous discovery of medicine and it has done wonders for patient care. But unfortunately, in India, we have been overprescribing it, thereby misusing it. And this rampant use of antibiotics has led to a lot of bacterial resistance. So, for a simple infection, if you have today, we are being prescribed a very latest generation strong antibiotics, which are worsening this bacteria's with antibiotics power to kill the simple bacteria. So what is happening is, as the bacterial resistance gets worse, over a period of time, the antibiotics for which simple antibiotics were working, that is not working in our country. You must have heard about things like multi-drug resistant tuberculosis or drug resistant tuberculosis. This has all happened because of misuse of antibiotics. I don't blame the people that much as I blame the medical fraternity, because we knew what danger we are creating for the society and we continued to overprescribe antibiotics without educating the patients.
Right. So, do pharmacies play a role in complicating the situation?
I believe so, because if you look at it, suppose if you have a common cold or a sore throat, how many times do you go to the doctor, get yourself checked out, and the doctor tells you that it could be just a viral infection, you don't need antibiotics? It doesn't happen normally here in our country. We, on our way to work, we jump into a pharmacy or a chemist shop and tell them, my throat is hurting, I've got a bit of a fever. So to the person who may not be a qualified pharmacist as well, just bring an over-the-counter antibiotic like an azithromycin, which is pretty nasty antibiotic in my dictionary. And those antibiotics you can just buy at the drop of a hat. Now, these are India is perhaps the biggest unregulated pharmaceutical market. And if you look at WHO has categorized last year, they came up with a categorization of antibiotics. Some antibiotics, they call it the key access antibiotics, which should be regularly available. The next category is a watch group of antibiotics, which cannot be available only for critical infections. And they have created a reserve group of antibiotics, which can only be given in a very serious and grave circumstances on special cases. But if you look at India, the reserve group of antibiotics are even available without any problem over the counter. Now, this has happened because of absolutely inappropriate regulations, because the government regulatory bodies doesn't understand the problem of giving antibiotics through open chemists, and also fixed drug composition. You will find in India there are a lot of two antibiotics are merged into one. This never happens anywhere. So this is something which is not a problem which India generates. These big multinational companies, they are not able to do this in America or Europe or any developed countries. But in India, they can easily produce this drug and they can easily market this drug. So you can easily understand that the government has to put in stringent regulations and the pharmacist has to obey by it so that the drugs are not available first. And that at the end of the day, the doctors need to know that they should not be prescribing.
So how can antibiotic stewardship programs help us here?
If you look at what antibiotic stewardship is, the principle of antibiotic stewardship is you have to prescribe for the right time, for the right patient, the right antibiotic at the right dose through the right route. That means either orally or intravenously in the right circumstances. Now, these are the steps that you have to do correct before you choose what antibiotics needs to be given for these infections, right? Now, that is what antibiotic stewardship is all about. So, if you have a stringent antibiotic stewardship programs running in different healthcare organizations, hospitals, or independent practitioners' premises, then obviously they will have to follow these principles of antibiotic stewardship, and this will drastically minimize the use of strong antibiotics for trivial infections.
So is it prevalent in India?
The stewardship program, you mean?
Yeah.
I have, when I worked in India till a couple of years ago, I did not see antibiotic stewardship to be very, very prevalent, but I heard from meeting colleagues in the conference as well as I'm speaking to other colleagues, some hospitals are coming up with antibiotic stewardship. And so they have got this antibiotic guidelines. And even if you look at it, the National Disease Control of the Government of India has come up with a national guideline for infectious disease for what antibiotic to prescribe. But who cares? That is, the policies are there, but the implementation is lacking.
So how do you think can the community be sensitized?
Community can be sensitized in a lot of ways, I think. Today, all of us, I mean, as a patient community, we use Dr. Google before you do anything. So we try to collect all healthcare related informations online. That's why technology, telehealth are coming up in a big way. So the informations are getting into, so if we pass on when people do search on online, there could be a lot of search engine optimization and other technologies could be used to provide them with the right information about antibiotic stewardship that could prompt them or give the scary picture. As you can see in a cigarette packet, how nasty cancer pictures are available, people still smoke. So even on antibiotic stewardship, there could be some information that could be transferred online. A lot of PR and marketing exercises on educating patients needs to happen from the government's end as they implement these policies across the board. People need to be educated that the pharmacies should not be having these medications, so that should come up. So any pharmacy which is giving this drug, it should be marked as illegal activity. And at the end of the day, the doctors as a group needs to believe that if they continue to misuse antibiotic prescribing, one day this will boomerang because their next generation will suffer.
Do you think online communities for doctors, such as Docplexus, they would help build this sort of sensitization, considering so much content goes out from the doctors and is shared with other doctors? What's your take on this?
Of course you can, because you have such a large pool of doctors coming into Docplexus platform, reading through different posts. So in your non-related posts as well, if there could be some education messages going in with statistical data, there are a lot of publications on it. I mean, British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology earlier this year published some data about how grave the Indian situation is. So those things can definitely be percolated through platforms like Docplexus.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shantanu. It was a pleasure having this discussion with you.
Thank you so much.